Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar video. This is going to be my review. We're going to take a look at the new Kyoshi Funko Pop. So, the new wave is in the process of being released, I suppose is the best way to put it. A lot of people probably already have it, but from what I can see, like, specific ones seem to have different release dates and so on. But Kyoshi, at least for more, I suppose, hardcore Avatar fans, is probably the highlight of the new wave. It is an exclusive, it's an Entertainment Earth exclusive, but then everywhere else that doesn't have Entertainment Earth, it is just a Funko exclusive. That's where I got mine. I just got mine from the European Funko official shop. And so you can see, yeah, it is a glow-in-the-dark. Got the Funko Special Edition logo. And yes, it is Avatar Kyoshi. Technically, you know, it's spirit projection form Avatar Kyoshi. But you can see here, it is part of this new wave here. So, you know, you have your floating Aang, because they seem to have an Aang. First time Azula is getting like a common. So that's interesting. Iroh gets his second pop. And then Momo gets a kind of, I suppose, full-size pop, but it is the Ronin Momo. And then we get Samurai Appa with armor, which is a pop super. But there's other ones, like I think there is a, what is it? This one's available in glow-in-the-dark. There's the warrior kind of face paint Sokka as well. And then there's also a bigger size Boomy on his throne pop as well. But Kyoshi is what we are here to talk about, because it's just exciting in general that they did a Kyoshi pop. Obviously, a lot of it is the Kyoshi novel hype. If you haven't read Rise of Kyoshi and then the sequel Shadow of Kyoshi, as well as the Yang Chen novels, I would definitely recommend anyone do that. I have a lot of content on my channel going over the novel content, because in the last couple of years, the novel content has been most of the new Avatar content we've gotten, since like the comics haven't had too much going on recently. So we know so much more about Kyoshi than even just her appearances from the show. So let's open this up. So standard Funko packaging here. And yeah, Kyoshi does come with a base. So standard base here is Kyoshi herself, and yeah, just goes in one of the feet, perfectly fine. So here is the spirit form of Avatar Kyoshi. Very, very cool to see this. So lots of accurate stuff here. The headdress here, of course, you don't get the colors to get across the makeup, which if we bring in the Suki Funko Pop, obviously the Kyoshi makeup is meant to be basically the same, since one kind of is meant to emulate the other. And this gives you a sense for like the idea of like, this is kind of in a way sort of what Kyoshi would look like in color, is similar to Suki, but of course stuff like the headdress is actually different and so on. Obviously, the Funko Pop doesn't particularly get across Kyoshi's height, in that Kyoshi's meant to be huge. Like, her feet are meant to be the biggest of any Avatar, of course, like that. But they don't tend to overly differentiate stuff in that way, unless it's like the giant characters in a way. So, yeah, you can see lots of stuff, like the fans, very similar as well. As we move into the back, once again, you have to assume that the mold that they've kind of used is that they probably copied much of the same kind of sculpting here. That's why it's like orientated in a very similar way. So, you know, cool to see the comparison here, because I always felt like with the Suki in place, it's like, well, you only need to adjust the kind of Funko Pop design just a little bit in a way to get towards Kyoshi, and they definitely have there. So you can see one of the big things is, obviously, if you look at Suki there, she has more of the kind of typical kind of Kyoshi warrior armor, whereas Kyoshi, of course, just kind of wears the kind of kimono that she's sort of known for. that if you read the books and stuff like that, there's kind of like armor in a way like built into it, at least in the novels when she was younger. But still, really cool to see there. Similarly, the bracers that she wears is also kind of part of the plot point of the novels as well. But yeah, you also notice that the hairstyle is different compared to Suki also. So yeah, very cool. I do question a little bit why they did just see-through kind of transparent spirits Kyoshi and didn't do a full color one, given that she basically appears just as much in like the flashback stuff in color, and in a way in some of the visions in color as well, as she does in the full-on blue spirit form. Definitely I would like to see them eventually do a Kyoshi in normal colors, just to see some of this stuff done and kind of really show the kind of Kyoshi warrior, the Kyoshi color scheme. But yeah, I think it's pretty impressive here. I'll show off the kind of attempt to show off the glow in the dark effect later on, because they're never super clear on which parts are glow in the dark, which aren't, and so on. But just as some final kind of comparisons here in this kind of first segment of the video, let's bring in a Book 3 Aang here. So you can see there's two avatars next to each other. Aang, there is no Roku Funko Pop to act as the kind of bridge between these two. But that's interesting that they did Kyoshi before Roku. Admittedly, Karuk was technically done before Kyoshi, but it's one of those NFT Funko Pops. A lot of people are just kind of completely disregarding them, basically. Hopefully they release the other avatars at some point down the line. So that's cool just to see, two of the avatars next to each other. And then probably the most obvious comparison is to bring in the transparent Aang that we have, which is obviously this one here, representing 107 from the show. So you can obviously see in terms of color scheme and stuff like that, they went the same kind of path here of mostly going for different kind of translucent blues and then black as the main kind of like detail color. They actually used, I suppose you can see here, more colors on the Kyoshi. The Aang really only has like the sort of color that the head is, and then like his kind of shawl here is a slightly different color, and then there's like a little bit of paint on stuff like the arrows. Whereas with Kyoshi, you can clearly see that they have the two kind of similar colors, but then there is also like a darker transparent blue that they have for the different parts of her kind of skirt piece kind of down here, as well as her hands. So very cool there. If I remember correctly, this Aang, its glow is not like super noticeable, at least without having like a black light to kind of shine through it, because obviously that's the whole idea, is that the glow in the dark effect on most of these glow in the dark ones is mostly only like properly visible when you full on shine a black light on them, which I don't have. You can get a rough effect by just kind of just shining light on them for a while and seeing what happens, which is what I'm going to do in the video here in a second. So I'm just going to test that out now, and I'll come back with the results on how glow in the dark Kyoshi actually is. Okay, so you can see I've mostly turned the lights off, and I'm shining at least my phone light on these two Funko Pops here who are glow in the dark, including the Kyoshi. So if I put this down, you should be able to hopefully get some sense of the way the glow works for the Kyoshi. So yeah, you can see here that this one works a little bit. The eyes glow a bit. Some of the stripes on the jacket go a little bit. And there's a tiny bit of glow in the base. The Kyoshi's actually like relatively decent. If you can see this, where the whole face is actually glowing, I'd say pretty well. Similarly, you can see bits and pieces throughout the fan. Obviously, her hair kind of blocks maybe a lot of seeing it from the back, but you can see, like, if you do that, like, you can't really see too much of it. Then when you turn her around, like, it is glowing quite a lot given that like this one has mostly gone off. This one I wasn't directly shining the light at a lot, but I never found the Aang glowed very well overall. So I would say that the Kyoshi is definitely a improvement over everything else. So if we bring the light back here, you can see what we were doing here. So yeah, I'm pretty sure, like I said, the glows work like 10 times better if you actually have a black light, UV light to shine into them. That tends to work like a lot better to really get the effect across. Otherwise, you do really have to like blast them with kind of normal light to get the effect going. But it works for the most part. Like that's the kind of thing to say here. In my mind, I just think it's a very cool thing that we finally have a Kyoshi pop. It's cool that she gets merchandise, and the fact that to a degree you would maybe think her selection here maybe over certain other characters is perhaps because of her increased popularity because of the novels, which is also something very nice to see. But yeah, it's definitely a nice pop. I think one of the better ones. I hope they do a normal color version at some point, like I said earlier. Otherwise, my thing with the pops overall is just that I would like to see a little bit more character variety. Like, I'd like to see them go back to Korra. I'd like to see them do like other past avatars. And then there are other versions of other characters they haven't done yet. Like, where's our book 3 Katara, for instance? Like, stuff like that is definitely what I am waiting for. But yeah, that was just a kind of quick-ish look at the Kyoshi Funko Pop. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are, especially if you have yourself got some of the other pops from the wave. What are your thoughts on this current wave, what you want to see Avatar Funko Pops do going forward? Because like, I'm assuming like going into 2025, the first movie for Avatar Studios, there's going to be a wave of pops. I'm assuming that's going to be one of the initial pieces of merchandise for that movie. So the expectation would be that more Avatar pops are coming. But what do you want to see? What are your thoughts on the current wave? But yes, that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.